Welcome to the Own Your Best Life podcast. I'm May Emson, your host, leadership and mindset coach. Here, we talk all things spiritual, mindset, business, leadership, and wellness for the modern seeker who wants to align their life with purpose and inspiration. We'll cover career changes, stress management, meditation, energy, intuition, and more. Each episode holds spiritual and practical tools to help you live a life of your wildest dreams without getting burnt out along the way. Ready to live a life on your own terms? This is the Own Your Best Life podcast. Welcome to episode number 215 of the Own Your Best Life podcast. If you've ever struggled working with other people, or if it feels like people are constantly creating stress at work for you, you'll want to listen in to today's podcast. We don't want to change who we are when we're dealing with other people, but we also know that life would be so much less stressful if we could figure out how to fight or argue less, how not to let people get under our skin. And so today's podcast on making relationships better at work will help you become more trusted and valued with your boss, your coworker, and your teams. So if you've been thinking about changing your job or even your relationships at work, one of the most common reasons people want to make a change is because the people side of work is becoming too much. There's more drama than you'd like, arguments, or you have these feelings of being undervalued or micromanaged. We don't feel inspired by the people around us. We start to wonder if it's better if we were to leave. And when work environments turn toxic and unprofessional, our health begins to suffer. Our performance also goes down the drain as well. We complain more to the people around us, our friends, our families, about how our bosses or our coworkers are behaving. We start to worry every time we get an email or text with their names on it. And there is often this feeling of PTSD that comes with work relationships, where the boss or coworker or team member attacks, blames, yells, or starts to become outwardly aggressive or negative. And as a result, every time you hear about them, you think about them, you see something that comes from them, you have a visceral reaction of wanting to hide, getting upset, just expecting the worst. And the thing is that no matter where we go, difficulty with people will still exist. There are different cultures and different companies where certain behaviors are not tolerated, or they exist few and far in between. But generally, there are still managers, leaders, and coworkers that aren't going to be as skilled at communicating, delegating, or leading as you would like them to be. And this much is going to be true. Yes, they could have said it with a different tone. Yes, they could have showed you how to do the work instead of just expecting you to figure out something you've never done before and do it perfectly. Yes, they could be better at working through mistakes and failures with you instead of blaming you for them. And yes, they can be more patient, more clear, and caring. Yes, yes, and yes. And at the same time, the scenario you're faced with is that they aren't the way you want them to be right now. And as a result, you're having a hard time working with them. And there are times, there are places where it does make sense to leave. And there are times when you don't want to exercise that option, or even if you do, you want the time you have there to be more pleasant, more productive, so you don't feel this urgency to leave versus you do it on your own terms, in your own time, and not feeling like you're burning bridges. Either way, the question still becomes this: what can I do now to make this situation better? I get on calls all the time where people are struggling with the people they work with, bosses, ex-bosses, coworkers, teammates, team members, random people. The common feeling is one of anger, frustration, or even sadness. They are worried that if they don't improve this relationship, they won't keep the job. They're worried that if you don't fix this situation, that team members will leave or just be miserable. And they worry that this will be their fault, that they couldn't figure out how to work better with this person. They hate that they're even bothered at all, and they wish they weren't. And I feel you, because there is a massive leadership crisis and gap where we have not developed the skills to work with other people well. Instead, we focus on just getting the work done, and the people stuff isn't important until it is. So in this day and age, getting work done happens through people. As you level up, increase the scope in your roles, you don't work alone and you need help. You need people to engage with you, to work with you, not against you, in order to be promoted, to be recognized. You need more people on your side singing your praises, advocating for you all day long, even when you're not in the room. And this is the biggest leadership shift you can make, to see that your relationships at work are more important than the work itself. The work will change, but getting work done with and through people will be the thing that will yield the most dividends. And the people who sleep better at night and have less Sunday scaries are less stressed by people. They know how to handle people who work and think differently than they do. They don't avoid the difficult people and try not to include them in meetings. They're used to dealing with confrontation and conflict, and they use it to help, to serve, to get the job done. And leaders don't become leaders by not working with and succeeding with other people. And we need more conscious leaders who are able to leave people better than how they found them. We need them running our companies and our organizations. So no one is going to save us or you from those hard clients, those difficult bosses. We need to do the work to improve our skills of building relationships with different types of people, communicating with people who are not just like us. So how we do this is through a spiritual high performance strategy method I call 10X leadership. There are a few different components to this method, but one of them is thinking about work in a way where you are just not getting things done, but considering who you are being in the process. Are you showing up as a leader who can work well with others that are different from them? Or are you feeling more like a victim and feeling disempowered? Are you able to accept that it's your job to innovate and try new and different ways to communicate? Or do you feel like someone else needs to do that work because you're their quote unquote boss, or you have some power over them? When we learn how to work and communicate with people differently, we're not changing who we are. We're realizing that who we are is bigger and stronger than the way we communicate. We can change tone, we can change conciseness, we can change messaging without becoming a different person. We are just pragmatic, and we realize that sometimes people don't understand things certain ways, and it's not wrong, it's just different. And often we wish other people listened to us and understood us the way we want to be understood. And deep down, we would love to do the same for other people. We know that it's worth it because these relationships at work affect our confidence. They affect our morale. And just because you've had a hard time in the past, I want you to know it doesn't mean that you won't figure out how to make it work. Different styles of communication and decision-making need different behaviors. And that's the skill of learning how to manage relationships. It's not being inauthentic or manipulative if you give more facts to someone who believes that the numbers drive the decision. It's not inauthentic to connect to someone who cares about relationships and focus more on the relationship than the task that has to be done. You'll find that this is the same at work as it is at home and in our personal lives. And the only reason we don't do it is because we either don't know how to do it and it's a skills gap we need to close, or we don't think it will work, or that we have to become someone we don't want to become, for example. Believing these new things about leadership is part of our jobs as leaders. This is part of that 10X leadership, believing new things. The same goes with learning new skills and developing ourselves as leaders. That is part of our job. You weren't born to be a leader, but you can learn how to become a leader. You weren't born knowing how to communicate, but you learned, and you can do it again. The reason this works is because you take yourself everywhere you go, which means that you take the skills of communication, you take the skills of influence with you. You build trust everywhere you go because you're the one who is able to tailor your communication and behaviors to the people around you. As long as you know that you're the one making these changes because you want to have better results, a more pleasant work experience, or even a more supportive environment, then you're the one in the driver's seat. When it doesn't work, you know exactly what to do to address all these different kinds of people, enabling yourself to work with so many different kinds of people. And we do this through self-awareness and then other awareness. You don't have to worry that you're becoming a version of yourself that you don't like. That only happens when you feel like you're catering to someone else in a way that makes no sense and doesn't achieve the ultimate outcome. But in 10X leadership, you actually know what is the purpose of this relationship, this conversation, what matters the most here. And instead of being right and just getting your thing through, you are way more skilled at opening yourself up to figuring out how to have a conversation with someone so that they think they're the ones who came up with the change. And in fact, they do. And in fact, they may come up with things that are better than you would have ever thought of, and you engage them in this approach. And instead of them thinking that you're not competent and you're not good because you're just trying to force something down their throat that doesn't make sense to them, they think that you're the best person to work with. And they become one of your best people to work with and an advocate. And I've seen this happen time and time again. It's not easy, but it is simple when you apply the skills that I teach you, and it works. And when you keep going the course of avoiding difficult people or harder situations, and I know this from personal experience, you start to feel less agency about your career. You want to hide more. You start to think that maybe this kind of work just isn't for you. When you start learning the skills, the mindset of leadership, and you make relationships better at work, you also find that it spreads to your home life. Instead of thinking it's this personal thing that you just haven't figured out, you start to realize, oh, it's a simple skills gap. I know how to diagnose it. I know what the solution is, and I know the exact small next steps to do next. That's the difference. And instead of just being frustrated because someone told you something that was unnecessary or inappropriate, you understand what they're trying to get at and why they said it, and you know how to self-lead so that they will change that behavior, because you end up having different communications with them that inform them and get ahead of them, so that you start to manage the pace of work, you start to manage the pace of the relationship, you start to have the edge on the person in front of you, not because you're trying to get above them or be better than them, but because you understand them and you know what makes them tick and how to help them understand you and how to actually get your point across even more clearly. You will also start to find that because of this, you're not tied to a place or organization. where you're like, it's only this good here. You start to have more choices because you know how to work with lots of different kinds of people. You start to see it as a thing that you can influence. I can make the culture better. Here is what I do, and here's how it's done. This is how these changes take effect. And you know that that skill set is highly valued. And because of that, you now have leverage, because so many work environments suffer from poor communication, from a culture of leadership where people aren't truly saying what they think. And these things can be turned around when you work at the levels that you need to be working at and you're communicating in appropriate ways. So in our coaching together, you'll get lots of opportunities to practice these skills with your teams, with your coworkers, with your boss, and have multiple attempts every day to run meetings more effectively, to delegate, to provide feedback to other people. They won't all go as planned, but they are all steps in the right direction, and it will look like it's not working until it does, and until you start to see it as a scientist would and start to be able to deconstruct and problem solve it very easily. Your job isn't to find the easiest people to work with. It's to become so skilled and so curious that you keep doing your part to handle what you can control, your skills, your mindset around people. So now comes the moment of truth. You can decide that blaming, complaining are the way you want to approach your work, and that disempowered relationships are going to be your fate. Or you can decide to accept that difficulties exist always with the people you work with. And they are not insurmountable. They're normal, they're natural, because we are just one of 8 billion people that are out there with different experience, context, preferences, and that you can create better working relationships because you have the willingness to try to figure it out and to learn those skills. When you take the second path, the experience with harder people eventually become your success stories. These are those full circle moments where those people don't stress you out the same way they do today. This is the path of the spiritual achiever. It is a journey of less stress, more acceptance, and better results. So if you'd like to go this path, becoming a spiritual achiever, I invite you to watch the free training. You can go to mayemson.com/215, which is the episode show notes, and check out the Standout and Lead training on using spiritual high performance strategies. You can also apply to join the Spiritual Achiever program, where you're going to create your next chapter with spiritual and high performance strategies to achieve time and financial freedom using my proven method. It is risk-free. You either start seeing results within your first month, or I give you your money back. So schedule your call here at mayemson.com/contact, and we'll see you on the inside. That's it, my friends, for this week. I hope you have a great one, and I'll talk to you next time. Thanks so much for joining us this week on Own Your Best Life. Make sure to subscribe to the show on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts so that you'll never miss a show. And while you're at it, can you please rate and review on iTunes? I would so appreciate it. Share it with a friend, take a screenshot of it, and tag @MayEmson. This helps continue to get the word out. For more show notes and resources, check out www.mayemson.com. It'll have all the links to everything you heard here today. Thanks so much for listening. It's time to own your best life.